Is blindness a barrier? No.
Is deafness a barrier? No.
Are mobility, learning, cognitive disabilities, speech impairments and others, or even a combination of them, barriers? No way. Lack of accessibility is.
Welcome to Web Accessibility for All.
Follow the blind. This journey starts now.
Look. The path on the tablet, it's not here anymore.
What? The forest ate the road?
No. The map's old. It shows a trail that doesn't exist now.
Oh no, we're really lost.
We're not lost, just a little off track. If we find shade, maybe I can see the screen better, I think.
Do you see where we are? I hear something in the trees.
It's probably squirrels. Or rabbits.
I'm scared. Can we call Mom?
Hey my friend, welcome back to Web Accessibility for All. I am Ariel, Accessibility Consultant and Front-End Developer. This is it, the fourth and final part of our mini-series on accessible visualizations. Today we are talking about the last piece of the puzzle, maps. Think about it. Maps are how we get around. We use them to orient ourselves, to travel, to meet people, or just to get home. Sometimes a wonky digital map is just a funny story, but for millions of people, a map that is hard to read can cause real disorientation, frustration, or even danger.
The invisible barriers in digital maps.
Phones, delivery apps, public transit systems, tourism apps, games, even in cars. Maps are everywhere. To work properly, maps require interpreting multiple layers of information simultaneously. Streets, names, icons, colors, routes, distances. Usually, they are designed for people with perfect vision, good spatial memory, and no cognitive or motor challenges. But what about users who are blind, have low vision, dyslexia, or ADHD? How do they navigate a map that's just a wall of graphics, hard to read street names, or outdated information?
Look, the GPS says the new store is just 2 blocks away. Let's go this way.
Hold on. That street is closed for construction, and the corners don't have ramps for my wheelchair.
Really?
The map doesn't show it?
I thought the app would know everything.
The GPS knows where the streets are, but it doesn't know if someone like me can get through.
Okay, then we'll go around via the avenue, right?
Yes, but be careful. The curb has a slope steeper than any gym incline. No safe crossing signs either.
Why maps fail us. Common usability problems.
It's true that even sighted people often feel lost because the interface seems designed for map experts. When you add a visual, cognitive, or motor disability to the mix, the problems multiply. Let's imagine a common scenario. A person who is blind needs to find the nearest coffee shop. On a traditional visual map, the screen is just a dense canvas of pixels. The screen reader can make sense of the street names, the tiny coffee cup icon, or the distance. The user is completely lost. Now let's apply that same logic to the common problems we see every day.
Unintuitive scales.
When zooming in, a pinch gesture can jump from 100 meters to 100 kilometers, without a clear warning.
Visual overload.
There are too many layers: streets, businesses, traffic, transportation, reviews, photos, and the user loses focus.
Fine interactions.
Marker icons or zoom buttons are tiny or difficult to tap on small screens.
Lack of orientation.
A visual map always has north up. For a blind person, that doesn't make sense, because there is no up or down to perceive.
Lost context.
When moving around, it's easy to forget where you started or how to get back.
Cognitive blindness of space.
Without an auditory or textual representation of distances and relationships, the notion of space falls apart.
The Accessibility Rulebook, Official Standards.
WCAG, Web Content Accessibility Guidelines.
1.1.1 Non-text content. Any map must have a text alternative that communicates the same information. 1.3.1 Info and relationships. Special relationships and hierarchies must be programmatically understandable. 1.4.1 Use of color. Don't rely on color alone to distinguish routes, layers, or elements. 2.1.1 Keyboard. The entire map must be navigable using a keyboard. 2.4.x Navigability. Allow for quick jumps to key points of interest or functionalities.
ARIA Accessible Rich Internet Applications.
Application for interactive map containers. Button, menu, list box, roles for layers, and route controls. ARIA Lib for dynamic announcements about route changes or alerts. ARIA Label and ARIA Described By to label points of interest.
APG ARIA Authoring Practices Guide.
Although there isn't a specific map pattern, techniques from menus, combo boxes, and sliders can be applied for layer selection, controlled zoom, filtering points of interest, guides for handling dynamic content updates, ideal for real-time notifications.
The Legal Landscape and Practical Resources.
EU Accessibility Act 2025 requires functional alternatives for geographic data in public services, apps, and kiosks.
Section 508 US. Federal websites must provide accessible alternatives to maps and charts.
Making the data accessible.
When we talk about accessible map experiences, the biggest challenge is that maps are inherently visual. People who can't see or who have trouble interpreting spatial relationships need alternatives that go beyond just adding alt text. Here's how I approach this.
Multiple modes of access.
When a map is designed to be accessible, it provides multiple ways to access information. Instead of a single image, the map's data is exposed in a structured, screen reader-friendly way using semantic HTML. For example, street names, landmarks, and routes are presented as headings or lists. This is paired with clear textual directions, so a user gets a step-by-step guide like,
"The library is 2 blocks north of the station."
Finally, every function, panning, zooming, and switching layers must be operable by a keyboard, ensuring no user gets trapped or excluded from navigating the map.
Beyond the visual, new ways to navigate.
Maps don't have to be just visual. You can turn them into stories by transforming spatial information into a narrative. For example, instead of a visual representation, you can describe the route as:
From your location, the grocery store is a 5-minute walk south, passing the park entrance.
Another powerful alternative is using audio cues. Non-visual maps can use pitch, volume, or stereo panning to represent direction and distance on top of textual information. On the physical side, you can provide tactile alternatives by supporting the export of maps to tactile graphics or embossing systems. This can help blind users prepare for a trip before they even leave home.
Orientation and cognitive support.
In map design, it's crucial to offer different ways to navigate. Landmark-based guidance works better for many people. Then, cardinal directions, for instance,
Turn left at the pharmacy.
is often more usable than
Head east for 200 meters.
Another key principle is to provide simplified views to reduce cognitive overload. This means offering a mode that strips out unnecessary layers, symbols, or density, focusing only in what's relevant, like accessible entrances or past stops. Always prioritize error prevention. You should warn users if data might be outdated, such as a closed road or a relocated bus stop. Misinformation can be a significant barrier to safe and independent navigation.
Conclusion.
Maps are another form of complex visualization, like charts, graphs, or diagrams. If they aren't perceivable, operable, and understandable, users are excluded. Maps add spatial complexity, but the same solutions apply. Alternative representations, accessible interactions, and user control. Ultimately, accessibility means no one is left lost or confused, whether it is a chart, diagram, or maps. This wraps up our mini-series on accessible visualizations. Thank you for joining me on Web Accessibility for All. Remember, accessibility is about giving everyone the tools to understand, navigate, and act on information. I'll see you in the next episode, where we continue exploring inclusive digital experiences for all users. Goodbye.
Thanks for joining us today. Subscribe for a new challenge next week. And don't be shy. Leave us a review or ask your accessibility questions online. See you next week for another episode of Web Accessibility for All.